How's everybody doing today? This is Pete here with Spawn Fly Fish, and today I want to show you another one of my favorite midges. And if you don't know this by now, midges are one of my favorite bugs. However, I'm just going to show you a really cool, simple alternative to a version of a midge that maybe a lot of fish haven't seen. Just something that you can toss if you're fishing heavily pressured waters, a lot of tailwater systems that they see the same bugs over and over. Just sometimes got to throw them something a little bit different, and I'll show you a couple easy steps to do that. So hope you enjoy this video. Please remember to hit like and subscribe at the end, and we'll see you on the water real soon. Thank you. All right, everybody. So here in the vise, we've got our core hook, and this is the series 1120 in a size 12. And on the front, I've got a 7/64 inch bead, and that's the black, glossy black Dazzle brass from Hareline. And now I'm going to add 5 or 6 wraps of some .015 non-lead wire behind that. And this is mostly just to seat that bead so we don't have any movement. And I'm going to clip the front and use the curved portion of the scissors, of course, to round that over if the bead stays where it's supposed to. Get that into the back of the bead a little bit and cut the back portion out. And now I'm going to turn this and round over that cut we just made on the back. So that's not too good. Let's fix that up a little bit before we get going here. That's a little better. All right. Make sure that's pushed into the back of the bead there. And now for our thread, just got some ultra thread, and this is black 70 denier. And let me get this started. So if you've fished midges at all or quite a bit, either way, you've noticed that there tends to be some agreement on the zebra midge and different classic patterns. This is very similar to how you would tie any other midge, but we're going to start with that black bead. We're going to use silver for the rib, and then we're going to put a little peacock behind that bead as a collar. And so it's going to look just enough different than what everybody else is throwing, and a lot of times that is all the difference that it needs to turn from an okay day to a great fishing day, or from 0 fish to a couple, and that makes a big difference. All right, so right behind where our weighted wire ends, on top, I'm going to tie in some silver ultra thread, and this is size small. And I'm going to wrap this all the way back down to where we want our fly to end. Right about there, looks pretty good. I'm going to wrap back up, but before I do so, I'm going to spin that thread counterclockwise and really get it to flatten out. And that way when I wrap, I'm going to get more lateral coverage without bulking up the underbody of this fly. And I'll go down and make another pass all the way down here. We want that all covered up. We don't want to see any bare hook or any of that rib wire showing through. It's going to be pretty good right there, like the taper on this. So now that we're right where we want to be, you can see there are a couple little fringes of this thread. Just go ahead and nick those out right away. All right, and that's a thread body. And we're going to take this wire, we're going to rib it. I'm going to turn this so I can see what I'm doing, at least for a couple of these wraps. And now I'll turn it back so you can see what happens. And we're just working our way up the abdomen, adding some segmentation, which looks very natural to the fish and makes them go, yeah, I'll have some of that. Get right behind that bead, a couple wraps of thread just to trap it. And now I'm going to pull this wire back and really solidify it down. Great. Go ahead and trim out the tag end of wire. Use your thumbnail or scissors to make sure that cut edge is softened and not going to cut your thread, and cover down. All right, so now for behind that bead, I've got some Peacock curl that is dyed black, and I'm not going to start right at the tips, but I'm going to go back an inch or so and start tying that down. And what I'm looking for here is, a couple wraps of the wire back, and so for this it sits just past the hook point, and that's going to be the back of our thorax. Once you've got that in there, go ahead and trim out these tag ends of the Peacock and get that thread right behind the bead. Now we'll just lift gently on these Peacock curls and start twisting them very gently, and like so. And the reason we do this is as we wrap, now you're going to have a fuller representation with these fibers going every direction as you wrap it. It'll be a little bit fuller. And there we go. That's why we're gentle. Let's grab a couple more pieces of Peacock curl and try that again. It's the fun of tying flies and the price of admission. Let's undo this. Let's get rid of these tags that we tied in. Let's keep it a little bit cleaner underneath. And let's try that again. Right on top, work our way back. Right, like so. Pull up and trim out these butt ends. I really just wanted to show you that part again. And tie down. Spin them up gently and start to wrap. And just with your offhand, kind of keep these fibers moving toward the back very gently. And that way, when you come up behind the bead, when you're tying this off, you can see it's going to be clean behind that bead, and you won't have a lot of fibers that you have to trim out, because it's pretty difficult on small flies. And then you have a bead to deal with as well. A couple wraps to get that caught, and then a couple wraps in front. And that's good enough to cut these out. Trim those out. I've got a stray fiber here from the thread, I think. Get rid of that. And now I can go ahead and tidy up right behind the bead and make a little bit of a thread collar there. And now I'm ready for a whip finish. And you don't have a lot of room to move here, so really make sure you're not jumping or bouncing around with your whip finish. And I'll put a second whip finish in there. And we're golden. Tighten her up. Get that thread out. And we are ready for some cement. And for this fly, you could use some resin, especially on the abdomen or the body. I'm just going to use some Loon hardhead. And the nice thing about Loon hardhead is it does stay viscous a little bit longer than regular head cement. So I have a little bit more time to work with it and really make sure I've got a nice coat on not only these thread wraps, but I'm going to go ahead and coat the body as well. Again, it's just thread. Thread flies, they get chewed up pretty quickly. So a little bit of head cement or resin is going to greatly increase the longevity of these little bugs. And do your very best not to get any head cement in that Peacock, because that Peacock will have a little bit of movement to it. All right, and there you have it. So when fishing is slowed down and they're still eating and everybody else is throwing gold or all silver or what have you, throw something that the fish haven't seen and make sure you're tying a good knot, because there's a pretty good chance those fish will eat it. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and if you did, please remember to hit like and subscribe, and we will see you guys on the water.